Charlie, we're live, Charlie. You almost had me. You almost had me, bro.
Aloha, no, everyone. It's Aloha Friday. Not. It's Thursday, the 11th of June. I'm Charlie. This is my partner, Mel Raposo. How you folks doing today? How you doing now?
I'm doing groovy, bro. I'm doing groovy. Happy Kamehameha Day.
Yeah. Also, like to send a shout out to my grandson, Chatty Boy Kai Hui. It's his birthday today. I want to wish him a happy birthday, grandson. Love you. Papa misses you.
All right, right. Okay, here we go. Boom. We are on. We're live, Charlie.
Yes,
We're
I
live.
can tell. Yes, I can tell.
Oh, all right, all right. Well, man, how was your day? How was your Kamehameha Day? Before you get started, I just want to welcome everybody because I have a feeling I know what Charlie's gonna say. So I'm gonna welcome everybody first. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Eric Gill tonight from the Unite Now Local 5 is a hotel employee union located out there in Honolulu. Eric will be joining us in a few minutes to give us a kind of the union's perspective on employee safety as we open up the state and begin to welcome our tourists back. Eric is going to share with us his insights on how we are going to do that and keeping our employees safe, keeping our residents safe. So I just think it's going to be exciting. But
yes.
if you've ever seen Eric Gill speak on the news, you can tell it's going to be exciting. Yeah. Patsy said, anybody under the age of 18, you might want to, if you have kids around, go put them in a bedroom and go watch Nintendo or whatever, because I don't know if this guy he's like high octane. He's high octane. Octane.
Yep. Good, brother. Good.
Anyway, Charlie, getting back to Kamehameha Day, I know I saw your video this morning, and I got to tell you, I agree with you 100%. As a non-native Hawaiian, but someone that's been in Hawaii for, my family's been here for generations, the only culture I know. I definitely, as many others do, share your perspective. So well, I gotta step away. I'm gonna take my video up, but Charlie, go on and share with us your mana'o on Kamehameha Day in 2020.
Yeah. Well, mahalo, mahalo there, Mel. But for all of you out there, as you can tell, I did do a video today. I was a little bit upset, but I was corrected. The commission for the Kamehameha Day parade and festivities did cancel it, and it was canceled for this year. But nevertheless, the point I was trying to make as well is that it was canceled because the commission erred on the side of caution because of COVID. And I have to agree, they took into consideration. But I also know that the people of Hawaii is responsible. And then I aligned that and part of my anger was, I know they had a march, and again, I'll be the first one to say that you have a right to do that, but you just didn't practice the social distancing. So what made it different from having an all-out, whatever you like do on the weekend, and a Kamehameha Day parade? Growing up, I remember my dad used to take me down to Ala Moana Park and watching all the floats go by back in the day, because that was the best place to get set up, not in Waikiki itself, but close to Ala Moana Park, across from the Ala Moana Shopping Center. And I tell you, it was just something that I felt that has gone on for decades, and the tradition got broken. And but hopefully next year we will have a Kamehameha Day. So with that said, that's why I did what I did, and I know I offended some people, some of my friends, and I I'm sorry to a degree, but I am who I am, and I still love you all. And if you folks, you know, don't understand that, what's good for one, I think it should be good for all. And that way we wouldn't have too much animosity. And I think that's where this whole thing starts off from. What's good for one is good for all. When you start playing favorites and you start shifting, that's when people start getting upset. That's when targets are printed on people's backs. And they may be totally innocent, but the powers that may be, when you start to allow this to happen, or you start putting that framework into play, you're going to get problems. You're going to get problems. Just my sentiment alone, it speaks volumes that, hey, I have a problem with it because the way I feel as a native Hawaiian. But I'm not gonna press that on anybody. It's just my personal belief. Okay? And he's back. And he's back.
Yeah, well, remember, Charlie, when we first started in the early days, our message was really to follow the rules, follow social distancing and all of that. And it's still the same. But I remember telling the people, hey, do it for your grandma, your grandpa. If you don't care about yourself, do it for your puna, do it for your keiki, do it for those out there that may not be healthy.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of the when I saw your video today, that's what it comes down to. When you're talking about aloha, you're talking about caring for others, you're talking about doing what you can to make sure everyone is safe. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about denying anybody the right to protest or anything like that. I think a lot of our kids today, young kids today, are learning a very good lesson in civics and civil disobedience, which is not a bad thing. You get things done, but when it turns to violence and rioting and and violating the rules of the day, in this case the COVID rules, where you're putting people at risk, you're putting others at risk, then that's not aloha. That's not pono. That's selfish. That's what it comes down to. And as you see the disruption, oh, it's so cute. Thanks, Cecilia. That's why we watch this show with Mel and Charlie, because you're on our side. Mahalo. When you disrupt, what's going on in Seattle right now, and many other places, but Seattle is really the highlight right now because they've occupied, I guess, 6 blocks now. They call it the autonomous zone. No police. They got armed people, armed civilians that are standing in the streets. I mean, that's chaos. It's anarchy. It's insane. And at some point, the government gonna have to take some action. And again, it's why it's gonna grow. It's gonna get. You're not gonna put others at risk. You're gonna put our military people at risk. You're gonna put law enforcement at risk to try to get back to normal. So I don't get it. I mean, I understand the movement, and in some case, to some extent, I agree with it. But once you start putting other people in danger, once you start stepping on someone else's civil right to be safe, then I think we have a problem. But anyway, Eric Gill is knocking on the door. Here we go. I just saw you on TV. Uh-oh. One of us, Mel. I was on TV, really? Oh. All right.
Oh yeah, I did. I did. You were on TV.
Go ahead, Charlie. I'm waiting.
America's Most Wanted. Mel Raposo.
The other day I got a call from the civil beat. I got a call. Rule number 1: no talk to the media. No talk to the media, because they take you out of context 99% of the time.
But you didn't talk to them. Yeah.
I never. Hell no. I did not. Did not. And if they're watching, you can take my number out of your phone. Okay, here we go. Eric Gill is in the house. Only if he dressed up. You think he dressed up, or he's gonna be in t-shirt?
There
Or
he goes. Hey.
yeah, he dressed up. He dressed up for the occasion. All right, look at that, Mr. Gill. Thank you very much for
You
joining us tonight.
talk about moi? I, I even put a light over here. It's better with the
Yeah.
shade on, yeah. I'm in a garage, so I had to kind of come up with some studio lighting effects.
Well, I tell you, your video is clear, your sound is crispy. We're in business, my friend. Sometimes we get some people that it's like, oh my God, what kind of Wi-Fi you get? But yours is perfect tonight. So,
I've been on this all day, every day.
well,
Doesn't
thank you.
mean I got it. Doesn't mean I got it wired, but it does mean I got a little experience on workarounds.
Well, I appreciate you being there. I'm Mel, obviously, you know, Mr. Charlie on up there, and
Hey, brother, how are you?
you know you're a busy guy, but a lot of stuff going on. For all of those of you that are watching, tuning in, wow, we got over 100 people already live.
Let's share it, Mel. Let's share it. Tell your people to share it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Share it, guys. Hit the share button. Start a watch party. You know how hard it is to get this guy on a Zoom meeting? Come on, guys, share it.
Yes.
Share it now.
It takes a phone call. It takes a phone call. Now you got the
Yeah, well,
problem.
you gotta-
Now you got the
you gotta
problem
know
trying to shut me
somebody.
up.
You gotta know somebody. You know, I'm so happy I know somebody that knows somebody. So, but yeah, you know, we going through a lot of stuff. Every day we get changes with COVID. Every single day for the last 3 months, new developments every day. Everybody's a lot of our people are confused. They don't know what to expect, you know, and we asked you to come on to share with us a little bit about obviously Eric Gill is with the local 5 Unite Hawaii Hotel Employee Union on Oahu. You do have hotels on Kauai. Do you have members on Kauai, correct? Is it Sheraton?
Yeah, we got the Sheraton. Kauai is we're not too thick on the ground, but yes, we have a very good group at Sheraton.
Okay. And so
we also have the we also have the host workers at the airport on Kauai and on Maui and the Big Island. So all of them are currently pretty much unemployed.
Okay. So we thought it would be interesting. Charlie suggested bringing you on to discuss the future of the hotel worker, the future or the host workers, as it relates to safety, as it relates to the state trying to open up our economy, which I think everyone agrees it needs to be done, but in a safe manner. But your employees, both at host as well as the hotels, are going to be in contact with these visitors. So we kind of wanted to get your perspective, the union's perspective on their safety, and how are we going to ensure, how is the state going to ensure and the hotels going to ensure the safety of their employees? So,
well,
man,
you want me to start? Because I'll start.
Yes, sir.
Look, I mean, the first thing to understand is the hotels aren't going to ensure the safety of our workers. They're just not. And in fact, this is already being demonstrated around the country as other cities have opened up. And so the problem about opening safety is, okay, who's going to make sure of that? How are they going to make sure of that? How are we going to be confident they're making sure of that? How are we in Hawaii going to know that our people that work in hotels are safe? And also, very importantly, how are the guests going to know that they're coming to a safe place? And the truth of the matter is there's two very different views on that question between management and union. And so the fact is, all of the companies are saying, don't worry, we got this. But they're not showing what they got. And what we can find out about what they got does not include protections for workers, rights for workers, measures to make sure that the protections for workers that they say they're going to do are actually going to happen, and what happens to workers if that doesn't happen. And so certainly this situation is fraught with difficulty. There's a national campaign of employers, let's reopen the economy, and it's led by the president we got, right? And that campaign has already, I mean, the only thing this president has done to ensure the reopening is an executive order forcing meat cutters back to work in plants where COVID outbreaks are taking place. And in fact, you know, there is nobody out there who is championing safety of workers except us and the workers. So the notion that we should just reopen the economy, okay, the question is going to be how, because certainly what we can't do is just reopen and then get sick. And if that happens, we will have squandered a chance that we have to actually rebuild our tourist industry. And there's a big debate about how that should be done, how much of that should be done. But the fact of the matter is, if there's another COVID outbreak, we're all closing down again. We're all going to be in our homes again, and we're all going to be unemployed again. And the fact is that, the people who are saying just reopen, are ignoring that fact that if we reopen and we reopen prematurely without adequate protections in place, and when what happens, and somebody gets sick, and there's a bloom in one of our hotels, any one of them, then we're closed again. And we may not be able to regain our status as one of the safest places in the world to be if we don't attend to the public health. So, I'll just give you an example. Hundreds of thousands of people are losing their coverage right now. Most of the hotels gave April and May coverage if they were non-union. And if they were union, they basically gave no money to our trust fund to continue the coverage for our workers at Sheraton, for example. We are covering them out of our trust fund's reserves with no help from the employers for those furloughed workers. So we're burning irreplaceable assets to cover them, but they're covered. Our host workers lost their coverage on June 4th. So they are currently not covered, which means that, we had testimony in one of our meetings. One of our members spent all day on June 3rd trying to stock up on her meds that she needs to take every day. And she don't have coverage now because that coverage is gone. And nobody has taken care of this problem. And we have many, many thousands of workers in the hospitality industry and associated industries that are unemployed and whose coverage has just run out. And it's a public safety crisis. And how can we talk about, we're going to reopen the hotels with people working that don't have coverage? Is that a good idea? Really. So the question of reopening hotels has to be associated with the safety of workers and everybody, because there is no way to be safe in a hotel without workers being safe. If workers aren't safe, nobody's safe. And they're not addressing that with us in a constructive way. In fact, the corporations are so far have failed to engage with us in a meaningful way about what needs to be done to keep people safe when they reopen. So here we got hotels saying, let's reopen. And when we say, okay, let's talk about the safety, they're going, gee, we didn't get the memo from corporate office yet. But they did, and we know it, and we have it. And it involves reopening hotels without bringing our people back to work.
Eric, that's what, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what I had heard from several different sources, that in fact, and I can tell you, I work for a hotel. I was working for a hotel full time for 9 years, and I just got my letter last week or two ago, and I was on a casual status, but that my employment was terminated. I was permanently furloughed as they were cutting back on many of the positions. And I'm hearing that's what's happening in many of the hotels, that they're letting people go, and in fact the workforce is being reduced. That doesn't do anybody any good. But I guess my question is, why is there such a opposition? I don't know if that's the right word, but to keeping your employees safe. I think that's the question. We had Dr. Miskovich on our show. He tests all of employees regularly. We had Dr. T on the show. they test their employees.
Mhm.
A lot of our healthcare practitioners are testing their employees regularly. They're because they care about their employees. You know, they don't want their employees to get sick and go home and pass it on to their families. So what's the roadblock? Is it money? Is it cost? Is it I don't get it. I don't
It's
get it.
always cost. Like, I mean, you can make up, everybody makes up whatever arguments they're going to make. You know, and frankly, you know, the state and federal government's policy on testing is incomprehensible to me. But it is certainly true that employers do not want the obligation to pay $100 a pop to test their workers on a regular basis. They don't. I mean, big surprise. They don't want to have the money fall to them to come up with the money to test guests either. And frankly, to be safe costs money. You know, all of these hotels, for example, say we should be wiping down the lobby, you know, disinfecting everything and do all those surfaces, and everything should be done twice a day. Okay. To do that, they have to hire somebody to do that. And they don't want to. And so it's going to be a push and pull between what they say they're going to do and what they actually do. But right now, we're trying to get into the position where we can even find out what they say they're going to do, because they're not showing us in detail how they're going to do the work. And that's what workers need to know. How many masks do I need? What equipment do I need when I clean that room? What materials, soaps do I need? What is the technique? How am I going to be trained to do that? All these things cost money, and they don't want to pay it. Okay, they don't. A big surprise. They don't. So trying to get an agreement with them in advance before people go in is being exceedingly difficult. And they don't want to tell us what they have in store. For example, we know, you know, Outrigger doesn't give it to us, but we know that their guidelines, among other things, call for the elimination of, and I shouldn't just mention Outrigger. The fact is, we know this from the trade press, that this is something across the whole industry, that they intend to eliminate daily cleaning of rooms. At Sheraton Kauai, that would mean at least 30 to 40, possibly 40% of our housekeepers would not be needed. So this is what they plan to do, is to say that daily cleaning a room is unsafe when the opposite is true, and use that as a justification to eliminate dozens of jobs on Kauai and many more. I mean, dozens of my jobs, you know, people in our union. But there's many non-union workers that have nobody talking for them, and who for this is already a reality. And so if just that one thing happens and the employers decide to eliminate daily room cleaning, then that means thousands of our people currently working in hotels will not have a job to go back to. And I look at it this way: if the hotels aren't going to give us the jobs that we bought by giving them the permits to build on our beaches and take our beaches and give them to tourists, and they want to have the tourists and not give the jobs, that's a hotel we don't need. You know, we don't need every hotel if we're going to screw things up.
The big push for opening the economy, the tourism industry, was really, or the sell to the public is really the jobs and getting our people back to work. That's the sell by the state anyway. And that, you know, we got, and I agree, Eric, I agree. We got to get
we want to go back to work. We want to go back to work. We just don't want to die.
Yeah, well, you know, Charlie and I, that wasn't a laugh. That was just chuckling, because Charlie and I we were delivering shirts. We do these shirts. So we went out delivering shirts, and we spoke to a general manager of a property here on Kauai. Charlie, remember, and how she was explaining, I'm not going to mention any names on this, but I was impressed when she gave us the plan. She was telling us the plan right there in the parking lot. We're 6 feet apart. We're wearing our masks. But she was telling us all that they were doing to improve the safety for their employees and their guests.
Oh, they got a long list. They all got a long list.
I mean, she was saying the cost that they were going through, the remodification or the renovations of certain rooms, in the event their guests to get sick. And this is one property. It's not a hotel chain. It's a condo property. And
Mhm.
I was really impressed that
Sure.
they put their priority, their employees as their priority, and the safety of their
Look, they
priority and
all
their
say
guests.
that, Mel. They all say
Uh,
that. The
yeah.
question is
Well,
going to
this
be,
one.
what happens if they don't do that? What
Yeah.
happens
Well,
if they
no,
don't buy the mask? What happens if they
yeah.
don't? What happens if they don't give you the gloves? What happens if they don't bring in that person to do the job? Who's gonna make them actually do what they just told you they're gonna do? Now I don't know who this is, but the big chains are in that position. They all have 25 pages. But I can tell
Yeah.
you right now, in other communities, I'm on calls. We represent people all over the country. Other places are opening up earlier than us because we have an airport that closed in New York. These places, they drive in. The
Hmm.
casinos opened up. They all have 25-page protocols. I'm sure everything she told you is on some of those things because
Hmm.
we know what they have. Our members, within a week, those protocols were blown away because they didn't follow them. And so, the casinos opened up. They said they were going to enforce social distancing. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. They didn't do any of that. The guests coming in, no mask, clumping up. I had horror stories of workers, my members, saying, look, these guests are blowing smoke in our face. Now you can understand this is casinos in Mississippi where
Hmm.
you got white guests and black workers. So you can imagine how that was taken by them. But the fact is, hotels, either they're going to enforce social distancing guidelines or they won't. And in order to do that, you need people who go over there to the tourists and say, and they're going to hire those people. They're not. And they're not unless somebody
Are,
makes
are,
it so.
do you anticipate problems with employees that don't want to go back to work because they're afraid
They
that
are afraid.
the
They
environment
are
are not
afraid.
is not safe? And
Well,
what's
sure.
their option? I mean, I know we had Randall Haricall. He's a labor attorney, and basically he said, yeah, employee feels unsafe. If the employer is not living up to their end of the bargain, then contact OSHA and file a complaint. Now, again, you guys have a union, so your members obviously would call the union, but
Oh,
I'm
well,
assuming
Randy's right
that
under the law, but the OSHA doesn't have enough inspectors now.
yeah.
Much less. I mean, and what are they going to inspect based on what? The protocols aren't in the OSHA laws. We're trying to get the government to put some laws in so they can be enforced, because right now none of those things that the general manager told you is law. And therefore, what is OSHA going to enforce? If they had the staff, which they don't, and if they had the willpower to do it, which is not evident in the state that this is going to happen. And what's happening right now is workers are being confronted with a terrible choice. If you don't come back to work when we tell you, we will tell the unemployment that you refuse work and you won't have unemployment. And so what's happening is workers, if they have an opportunity, are passing on that work. So we're talking to hotels about this, right? We got one hotel that, okay, they're going to call some people back. We said, okay, what are you going to do if the senior workers don't feel safe? Because the senior workers are the senior workers. These are the oldest people. These are the ones most likely to die if they get sick. These are the ones who have the most healthcare complications. And these are the ones who have to be called back first if you're going to follow the rules. And what are you going to tell Nana? You got to come to work, even though you're scared and your family's scared that you're going to come home and bring it home, and you got to come work, or we're going to take away your unemployment. That's what's happening to people right now. So we're looking for an agreement on that. Look, guys, we shouldn't have to force people to go to work. Somebody's going to be on unemployment. Why do you want to kick people off who feel unsafe? But that is what is happening. And so this is the kind of stuff that, because the government doesn't regulate it, and think about it. Hawaii law says that you get medical, they have to give you medical after 4 consecutive weeks to 20-hour weeks. That means people getting called back, they're at least 1 month, they got no coverage.
Mhm.
What's the employer going to do about that?
No, no, it's scary. I mean, and we hear it a lot. I mean, and we, like I said, we do this every night, and Charlie and I get messages from people from all over, all industries.
Well, let me
So
ask you,
we're concerned as well, and we feel for all of the workers.
Hmm.
Eric,
Yeah, we should be worried.
presently is the union, do you have a present collective bargaining agreement in place, or?
Yes, we do. And if we didn't, then we would have the right to strike over this stuff. And
Okay.
this might be a different conversation. But because we don't, the problem is, of course, that who's going to make the company follow the rules? First, what are the rules are, but how are you going to make the company follow them? How are you going to actually protect people? And let's be clear about this. I don't know now who you talk to, but the owners in our industry are not local people. These are big private equity companies, REITs. We're talking investment people. They invest in real estate. They buy and sell hotels as real estate. They're not necessarily hoteliers. And the big corporations that run, right now, right, you've got timeshare company owns Sheraton Kauai. It's being run by Marriott, right? So the fact is, neither of these entities are local at all, right? They don't have, their interest is not here. And so that's what we're facing, is Hawaii's people being put back to work by global corporations who want to make money, but don't have any particular reason to worry about you and me getting sick. And so what we need to do is we need to be reality here. We have to accept the reality of the situation, that it is the workers in any hotel that have an absolute interest in safety. It's not management, it's the workers. And so if we want to have safety in hotels, workers have to have the ability to speak up and enforce those safety guidelines. And we have to have safety guidelines, and the government hasn't set them yet. And what many of the guidelines they're looking at aren't sufficient to deal with safety issues, all of them. And the government isn't, what's the government going to really do about telling housekeepers what to do with the linen coming down the chute, right? Dirty linen, people slept in it, could have COVID, dropping down the chute into the basement, boom, making a big splash of dust. What's OSHA going to say about that right now, right? It's workers that's going to have to work that stuff out. And either management is going to have workers and us sit down and work on stuff and be safe, or they're not. And right now, they're not. And so they're over there, open. And I'm over there going, yeah, but. And they're going, open. And forgetting about the but. And it's not to say everywhere and always, as you said, we're seeing a little bit of difference with hotels that are owned by different entities. But
I
I'm talking
think
about Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt. These are the places that employ our people. These are the chains that employ our people.
The part that I don't understand is and I get it. I get all the cost and that, and I understand all of that stuff. But you get a breakout in your hotel, or an outbreak in your hotel. Okay, this is, I think, anyway. And of course, I don't own a hotel, but if you get an outbreak in your hotel, you get an outbreak in your restaurant, you get your outbreak in your whatever business you have, that's going to make the news. You remember the McDonald's in Kona?
Yes, I do.
Remember the two? You make that. Who would want that? You get an outbreak in your hotel, in your beautiful, classy hotel. You can expect some fiscal ramifications. You can expect some room cancellations, some reservations to be canceled, because nobody wants to go to a dirty hotel. So I guess I don't understand the apprehension to moving forward. And I see the cost. I do, but you pay now or you pay later. That old cliche: you pay now or you pay later.
Well, okay,
So at the end of the day, it's keeping your employees safe should be paramount. And I really want to jump into this. You said it earlier. The state's testing model is incomprehensible, which I have to agree with you 100%. We're planning on testing these people before they get on a plane, which is probably the best thing we can do right now. That's probably the most we can do right now.
They don't even know how to do that.
They cannot get that done.
Well, no, Americans is hard. We can do that with Japanese and New Zealand and Chinese guests, because they can work out a deal with us. How are you going to make American states do that?
Well, explain this to me, Eric. I don't know, because I was thinking about this yesterday, or maybe it was today. We're going to have a rule in place June 16th where inter-island travelers are going to be scanned, temporal scan, and all of that stuff before they're allowed to get. If they have a fever, they ain't going to be allowed to go on the plane.
Yep, that
Inter-island.
catches 30%, right? 30%
Okay,
people you might catch with that.
right. But okay, but we can do that to the local people flying inter-island,
Mhm.
right? It's according to the governor. Yeah, no, we're going to mandatory. You got to take the test. But Charlie and I have been talking about testing people coming in for 3 months, and we've been given the constitutional cannot because they have the freedom to
Right, right.
travel, they have the freedom to get on a plane. You cannot kick anybody off the plane. But all of a sudden, for local residents flying inter-island, you got to take a temporal scan, and if you have a fever, you ain't getting on the plane. But you cannot do that with the tourists because they
Well,
have constitutional rights. But the local residents, sorry, that's where I'm
no,
confused,
they
Eric.
can do that with the tourists. I mean, they could do stuff that requires that, but how do you get them to do it, right? So the governor put on the quarantine, right? And I went down there, I supported it, and the quarantine did work for its intended purpose, which was to discourage people from coming here, right? That's what it did. If you come here, we're gonna make you stay in your room for 2 weeks, and it worked, right? We went down to like 150 from 10,000 a day. So that's why we didn't get hit, right? Partly, right? We didn't import, right? Most of the COVID that came back was our people returning home, school kids coming home, they don't want to be sheltering up there, they came home, right? And so we had some outbreaks. The McDonald's one was a community transmission. That wasn't from tourists, right? That was local to local. So
Right.
was the Maui Memorial one. Okay, so the fact is that we have to protect hotel safety from two directions, right? From the community and from the guests. And so we have to test the workers. Of course, we should be testing the workers so that they know if they're sick or not and we can contain it. But basically, we're in this situation because the government failed. This is the national government failed, led by the president, totally failed on testing and containment back in December and January, where we had a chance to snaffle this off, find who's sick, figure out who they talk to, clamp it down, suppress it. Once it's loose in the population, the only thing we could do was stay home and shut everything down. Now we're talking about getting back out. The only thing we can do is use testing and contact tracing in order to stomp it down again. So if we're going to make the same mistake all over, and we're just going to be, we're all going to be home in August and September anyway. So the larger questions here are large, and it's not all doable by the hotel industry. But there is a way to do it that makes some sense, right? Right now, the quarantine is a disincentive, right? So the Republicans in the legislature came out with a plan, and other people have said, they didn't. I'm sure they didn't think it up by themselves. Others have said the same thing. The way you get people to make a test is you say, okay, you got a choice. Show us that you had a test, within the last 2 days or whatever you come up with. Or then you got to go quarantine for 14 days, right? At that point, travelers go, shit, yeah, I don't want to quarantine for 14 days. I'll take the test. So, in other words, it's possible to maintain the quarantine as a disincentive and get the guests to do that, right? And take that cost on, whatever, they can put it as part of the ticket. There's different ways you can fund it, but somebody got to come up with a test. But in order for that to work, you got to enforce the quarantine. And that's the problem too, right? All the guests going on, selfies, and they're not quarantining, and that's all on social media. So people know that it's a joke. And the truth is, hotels aren't set up to be quarantine stations. They're not, because they have no real way to keep you in your room. And so they don't want to be quarantine stations. None of them do. Well, there's a few that stuck into the state, and we'll work that out, because it would work, for example, if the state set up a hotel and said, here's the quarantine station, and do it right there, and all the guests that don't get tested get to stay there. then you have some teeth in the quarantine, which they may do that. We hear all kind of people talking about stuff. So
Well, the Attorney General is saying that's not constitutional. I mean, we that has been talked about for a while, and to me, that was the simple solution, and I would get a hotel back operating. It would come with obviously safety parameters for the employees. They still would have to order their food in. Their rooms wouldn't be cleaned every day or whatever the case may be. But and we thought it had some traction. In fact, we had the Senate COVID committee on our show, and we actually thought that was going to have some traction. But the following day at the Senate meeting, the hearing, the Attorney General said that we can't.
Yeah, I mean, the state's always worried about getting sued. I mean, they are. I mean, so is the city.
Yeah, it's true.
They don't like to do that. But I mean, the truth is that I mean, frankly, here we are, Kamehameha Day. If we had our nation back, we could do all of this, right? We could do all of this, and it's time to start talking about that too, because frankly, American tourists are the tourists that nobody in the world is going to want. America is screwed up, right? They relaxed restrictions. There's a new surge. The president's talking crazy stuff. From the point of view of other countries, it's so they're working on this Japan bubble thing, right? And the governor's people are looking at it. Their idea is set up an agreement with Japan, because the fact is the Japanese government certainly could make sure people got tested, because otherwise they could say, well, we're going to quarantine them when they come home, right? Unless they do that. And so right now, the governor's guys are thinking about that. I mean, there's basically places in the world that would work with us to do that. And it's not an interstate thing, right? Restricting people's rights and all that, because this is a foreign country. And so they're working on that. There's a whole group working on this Japan bubble, and we're talking to them. We're joining it. We want to be part of any positive solution to this. And that then you'd have a real reciprocal relationship. But in return for them sending their people here clean, we better be testing our people here, or why would they agree to it? And so, in other words, the government has failed so far, and can remain hopeful, but the government has failed so far to really plan this out. So, we're trying to work in the private sector side to see what we can do there. And, frankly, we can and are in the process of talking to hotels about safety. And we have ideas about certification standards and stuff like that. But the fact is, you got to make things that can actually work. And so we want enforcement to be in on the safety piece. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. I mean, just think it through. The president and the speaker, I mean, McConnell, right? The Senate majority leader, have declared publicly that they don't want to give any more money for relieving people unless there is blanket immunity applied against COVID-related tort claims, lawsuits, right? They want to immunize all of these companies, hotels and everybody else, from COVID-related claims. I mean, in practice, what does that mean? That means the corporation doesn't have to worry about the lawsuit. How is that going to translate on the ground? They're going to short circuit things. They're not going to do it right. They're not going to have that economic essential. So, like you say, they should all care for worker safety. At the practical reality level, worker safety and profit are going to be balanced by corporations. If we want corporations to balance public safety, we have to make that incentive so that one is the one that wins out in that particular calculation. But I can tell you, I deal with these guys all the time. We bargain with them all the time. We make agreements with them all the time. Enforcing them is difficult, even when they've written down and signed it. And they're not even saying, they told you what they're going to do. Is that GM posting that publicly? Is that GM giving workers a right to complain if something is not done according to what all those things that you were told? What is the worker's right to do that? Some of these guidelines, I'll give you an example. Mufi and the hotel and travel guys came out with this whole, they got 4 pages. The mainland, they're doing 25 pages. The bosses came out with 4. And one of them is workers should stay home when they're sick. If you're showing symptoms, do this, do that, but don't come to work. Good idea. Is that person getting sick leave or not? What happens to the worker whose wife tests positive or something and now has to go into 14-day quarantine? Somebody going to pay that worker to stay home or not? I mean, it's a real question. If you want workers to stay home when they're sick, how can they do that if their family is going to starve? So you got to take into account the workers' interest in these guidelines, or they're not going to work.
What is the current position of the hotels as far as in the scenario that you just gave, where your spouse tests positive or somebody in your household tests positive and you got to quarantine for 14 days? What is the current practice? You just suck wind, you don't get paid?
It would be nice to know that. Don't you think that would be useful to know that before we reopen the hotel?
Well, I thought that it was a CARES package or whatever package the federal package was that employers were going to get reimbursed for up to 2 weeks, I guess, of COVID related absences. But I don't even know if that's been used, or I don't know. But that, those are the kinds of things. Just imagine if you have an outbreak at the hotel and everybody that came in contact with that employee has to go quarantine. You wipe out the whole front desk. You wipe out the whole bell desk. You maybe wipe out half of your housekeeping crew.
Right.
Then what?
Right. So they need to test, and they need to agree with us that they will test. We're trying to make an agreement. And the fact is, we're talking to one hotel about testing, and they canceled the thing and moved it back a week. Called the GM. What's going on? Oh, the other hotels are pressuring us not to move forward on that because they have a national interest. These guys, they're not, just understand, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, all the owners, these are global corporations. And so they don't want to have somebody make an agreement with me on safety because they would be held responsible too. We certainly will. If somebody says, yes, we've agreed with Hotel A to test all the workers on a monthly basis, of course I'm going to go to those other hotels and say, you should do that too. And that's why they don't want anybody to agree. So, if you don't put the whole safety issue in the context of the struggle, the money issue that takes place every day in a hotel, there's always a push and pull between what the policy is and what the budget is. And we need to know what the policy is, and we have to have enforcement measures, or the budget is going to win. Oh, gee, guys, that case of gloves didn't come in this week. Can you reuse the ones from last week? I asked, before hotels closed, I asked one of the housemen was on one of our meetings, and I asked him, so did they give you gloves? Yeah, they gave me a set of gloves last week. That's worse than no gloves.
Has there been any consensus between the local 5 and the hotels that and your members and the hotels that employ your members? Are there any consensus, any agreements that have been reached as far as?
No, I've sent them a demand to bargain, and we've been asking to bargain this for 2.5 months. I've been asking them to tell me what their protocols are. What are you going to do about safety? And I'm still waiting. So they haven't told us what they're going to do, and they haven't agreed to bargain with us yet. So that tells me something, and it should tell you something as well. If they're going to take care of people, why aren't they showing us how? And why aren't they agreeing to sit down and talk about it and agree that we have a right to have a say in this?
Inter-Island opening up June 16th. I have a feeling, and this is totally unscientific. This is just based on the investigative brain that I have. listening to our leaders talk on the news and on press conferences and on Facebook Lives or whatever, I have a feeling that, and again, this is all dependent on what our numbers show in the next week or so. We're seeing this constant sixes and sevens and eights, and I'm thinking it's probably going to go up once the Memorial Day group kicks in, and then probably another 10 to 12 days for the protesting to kick in. But just assuming that everything stays the same, I would bet the governor opens up the mainland, lifts the mainland quarantine before the end of July. That's my pure speculation.
He already
Listening to,
extended it out to the end of July.
well, right now, but I know the lieutenant governor is trying to get him to lift it before. I heard him say that on the news this morning. But even if, let's just say July 31st or June 31st or whatever it is, let's say August 1, hotels open up. How long before you think hotels, because it's going to ramp up slowly. I think the inter island quarantine lifting will encourage a lot of inter island travel, local people trying to get the heck out of here to go spend some time off island, and vice versa, people coming here on Kauai. But how long you think before the hotel sees a ramp up to maybe 50% of where it was pre-COVID?
Well, some of these, like the head of Marriott came out and he basically said, look, we've been through this before. We're going to be pumping again shortly, and I saw other published reports, travel agents saying, oh, we got pent up demand, so all I can say is that it will depend on a lot of things, flight capacity and so on. But I don't think there's going to be a shortage of people that want to come here.
Yeah.
Because we are perceived as a safe place. If we blow that, then that'll be different. And so the real question is, all the pressure is open up. And we want our jobs back, guys. I got no dues coming in, right? My members aren't making any money. We want our jobs back. But we actually want to go back to work, not to open a hotel and they leave us home. And what good is a hotel if they're going to leave us home? Then who's going to pay for the public schools if all the hotel workers don't have jobs? We've run numbers. One hotel worker, pays more taxes than 31 visitors. So, if we get 31 visitors and we lose one job, we're in a net loss. And now we got the 31 visitors and all the rest that comes with it. And the truth is, and I know, I was on a show a week and a half ago where, what's his name? Anyway, he runs the tropical botanical place, and he lives in Hana, and he was saying how overjoyed, not Hana, I'm talking about North Shore, right? Up over there, Haena. And he's talking about, this is the first time ever we've...
Chipper Wickman.
Chipper, yeah. And he was on there and he was just going on and on. And it's like, hey, this is a great time. It's the first time the residents, the community could actually have a little get together. We actually used the beach park. It's the first time we've been there in years. Finally, we can drive on the road. We don't have cars parked all over the place, tourists all over everything. And it's great, right? And the truth is, tourism irresponsibly expanded into areas where we're not getting good jobs. If you look at the Economic Research Organization, we were making more on our tourist industry when we were having 5 million tourists than when we had 10. So 10 million tourists stretches all of us, and we make less and less and less. So the question is going to be, as we go forward, how much should we want? I want my members back to work. I want our places back to work because we have a chance to make them safe. We will fight for that. But the fact is, we shouldn't have so many tourists that they're overflowing in our neighborhoods, especially now. This is crazy. So the people of Hawaii have to decide what they want from tourism, and it has to be full employment and real safety. Otherwise, why would we want hotels that don't provide jobs? And why would we want visitors coming here if it makes us unsafe? So those two things have to be addressed. And the truth is, neither of those are being adequately addressed by our industry. So we're asking the legislature to establish some certain basic rules and guidelines to incentivize and ensure that hotels actually bring people back to work and that they actually follow the guidelines that they say they're going to follow, and that there be some real enforcement measures. And we have practical pieces of legislation that we are proposing to the legislature tomorrow. Basically, we have appointments tomorrow and we're going to present our ideas to them.
Yeah, I think you bring up a valid point regarding Chipper, and I watched that Insights PBS show. It was quite telling. But Chipper talked about the end of the road, Eric, and and he was dead on. I mean, he was dead on, and I think what you said, we made more money with 5 million tourists than we did with 10. You stretch everything out, the resources, you tap the resources, you overextend yourself. That's what happened out in Haena. The state had completely lost control of the management of that resource. Completely. I mean, it was to the point where the resource was being destroyed. And locals couldn't get down there. Locals couldn't. And it took that flood where the road was closed, so there was no access. And then it was like the reset button was pushed. And then people could come together and say, what is the capacity of that place? Now, the fact that we limited the capacity to Ke'e Beach and Haena Beach Park didn't impact tourism one iota on Kauai. It's. I mean, I think the management of tourism is what's critical right now, and we have the opportunity to take a breather and say, hey, we want to provide. We don't only want to provide the best quality experience for our visitor. Of course, that's the ultimate goal in the hospitality industry. We want to also provide a wonderful experience for the employer and an employee. The fact that we want to give them, gainful employment, safe employment, that they're not worried about going to work and getting sick. But now is the time to do that. Now is the time for people like yourself and the employers to sit around that table and get the employees' perspective. We're not going to have this opportunity again, hopefully.
I know.
And this is the time to do that.
It is, and unfortunately, we're wasting time. And I wanted to have this discussion with our employers for the last couple months, and we asked and we proposed. We sent our ideas as well, and I still haven't received what they plan to do. They claim not to have it, but we know they do, and so that's telling me something now. You know what I mean? You're exactly right, and 2 months ago, I was like, let's get together, kumbaya, let's try to do this. I didn't get any takers. And so that tells me something. You see what I'm saying? It is a golden opportunity. It is something we should work together. I mean, the fact of the matter is, whatever government says or company says or somebody's industrial hygienist says, we got to work together at the department level so that our people actually are safe and know they're safe. Otherwise, they'll be scared to come to work. So they need to know how to use the masks and why they have to use it and all that training. We have training. We're ready to go with that. And yet, when we try to reach an agreement with an employer, so we would sit down and do training of employees to be called back to work next week, the other companies are calling that employer and saying, "Don't make a deal with the union." So what I'm saying is that I'm trying to deal with the reality of the situation. What you're saying is exactly right. People should care about safety. People should do this. The fact of the matter is, if everybody did what they should do, I would be out of a job, because I spend my life trying to make them do what they should do and failing in many cases. Right now, we need the tools to make them do what they should do. And we need to make them tell us what they're going to do. And we need to be able to talk about that. And at the end of the day, we need to be able to enforce it. And all those things take time to figure out. We're ready to start. We've made a written demand for this, and we'll keep everybody updated. But right now, nobody has made an agreement with us about hotel safety. And yet all the people who haven't made an agreement with us are calling for the hotels to reopen.
Wow. I don't know why this is a big petri dish is what I have in my mind right now. A big petri dish that looks just like a hotel.
We're the guinea pigs.
Well, I mean, you know, we saw the devastation Maui Memorial. We saw what happened at Maui Memorial. The fact that it was a hospital didn't make it any worse or any better. It's just it happened to be a hospital. Then you had Kona, you had Merriman's, you had all these little clusters. The hotel is a prime place to pass the virus. And more safety measures got to be practiced at a hotel. And I know this because I worked in a hotel for almost 10 years. I know, and it was every day. And I see the contact. You cannot, you know how it is, Eric, man. I mean, Charlie's a Visit Industries and entertainer. You cannot practice aloha 10 feet away. You know, you the whole experience of coming to Hawaii is that spirit of aloha. You cannot do that with them in a way that,
right. And you
that
can't
makes
do it
you
if
guys feel like they get on contagious disease. But
you
this
can't do it if you
virus-
check in on this and you never see a front desk clerk.
right.
And you can't give aloha if you don't have a bellman chatting them up on the way to the room. And by the way, explaining what the rules should be and why they should socially distance and all those things to
Yeah.
protect all of us. And they can't do it without that doorman. Somebody got to wave the wand and do that stuff. You can't do it without daily cleaning those rooms because one, we can't afford to lose the jobs, but true, we should be sanitizing those rooms every day to make sure that the virus doesn't build up. That's when it gets worse, when it builds up and concentrates. And so we need people to be employed to be safe, but also to be, as you say, why would people pay the extra cost to come here and what they're going to do? Talk to a robot? It's our people that bring people here.
Well, right now they're gonna pay the extra cost because it's the safest place on earth.
For a while.
And if we don't protect that, we're gonna be the worst place on earth. You know, and
Right.
this is what I don't get. I mean, it's you know, it's like we're gonna try market this as the safest place on earth, but if we're not careful, it's gonna be very short-lived. And you know, I work at the prosecutor's office over here, and you know, our office, our boss, or the prosecutor, or whoever his leadership, we sanitize all the common area touch points every hour. We have a schedule. I do it at 8, 9, and 10 in the morning is mine. And 8, 9, and 10, I put on my rubber gloves, which they provide. I get my Lysol spray, I get my sanitized wipes, and my pipette, whatever I need is right there on the cart. And I do my business. I do it at 8, I do it at 9, I do it at 10. Someone else does it at 11, and so forth. That office, we're gonna die of Lysol poisoning before we die of COVID in our office. But that's the kind of seriousness you got to put into this. You know, at first I'm thinking, shit, man, that's kind of overkill. But then I think about it. We're at the prosecutors. These guys are walking us the street. The attorneys are going to court. They're dealing with all people, and they're coming back to the office. So you know what? After a couple of days, it's just habit, and it's not a problem anymore.
Right, but who's going to clean the sneeze guard? Who's going to clean the sneeze guard for the Starbucks, person behind there? That person doesn't have time to walk out and clean that, and somebody has to do that, and they have to hire somebody to do that, and that's what they're not going to do. Now you did it right, but we're working, and so either they have somebody to clean or they don't, and that's what we're trying to nail down with them. Truthfully, they need more people than they had before. That's not their plan, but they need more. I mean, truthfully, right? I mean, shouldn't we have elevator attendants now pushing the button so not everybody pushing the button? I mean, elevator attendants might come back after 50 years. They should, if we're going to be safe, right? Or is everybody going to push the same button? But think it through now. Yeah, you've been in a hotel. How many service elevators are there? And every morning at 8, how many housekeepers are in those service elevators packed shoulder to shoulder every day? And how many guests can there get on the guest elevators too? And are they going to say we're only going to do 50% capacity so that they can do what the CDC says they should do, which is wait 24 hours before you clean a checkout room? And the fact of the matter is, some hotels were doing that a month ago. They're not now. And unless we have an agreement, I can't enforce that. And so, but that's what comes off first is all these safety measures that are inconvenient and expensive. Is the hotel going to turn down a group because they have too many people to do social distancing? Really? You think they will? Or they turn down guests if it means they have to leave that guest room, unoccupied for 24 hours so that the team that goes in there to clean it is safe? Is that what they're going to do?
I think we already know the answer to that. I think we already know. I mean, if you just, the wonderful thing about, as far as like Charlie and I, retired cops and investigators for, that's all we do. But, with Facebook is a fabulous investigative tool. Everybody for some reason feels the need to take a picture of their experiences and post them on social media. And just from what I've seen, since the dining in has opened up, since these little, we've slowly been opening up, and you see, you ain't gonna practice social distancing in the bars. That's not gonna happen. The hotel ain't gonna be able to control a visitor, a group of visiting travel agents. It's not gonna happen. It's just not. And those are the kinds of incidents, that those little times where that the elevator is a great example. Unless you have someone there allowing only 2 people in the elevator, bingo.
Right. Somebody's got to be there. And that's the whole point. That's why we are proposing legislation, for example, to prevent what happened in meatpacking plants, where there is a law that you cannot take a picture to document a safety violation, right? We want to make it the other way, so that workers can take a picture, so that guests can take a picture, so that you can walk in there and take a picture, so that we can actually enforce guidelines. Otherwise, they're not going to hire 100 inspectors to go around. They're just not. Nobody's going to do that. So the only way you can enforce it is recruit the people who have an interest in safety, which is you and me, the general public, the guests, and the workers. And so we have a piece of legislation to offer the legislature, and we've written it up, and we're going to show them tomorrow. We have a piece of legislation saying they should bring back people to work in the same proportion as before. We know that 10% and 100% is different. I know we work in hotels, but the fact is, no, you don't get to reopen and just say you're not going to have valets anymore. And that's what they're all saying, by the way. Shouldn't have valets. Well, how many valets will be unemployed then? But think it through the other way. If people are going to drive in, shouldn't the valet be in there doing what you're doing at your desk, right? Let's wipe the place down. Let's make it safe so that the guests get the car back wiped down. That is a good service. We should do that. It makes people safe, and we keep that valet working. And so there's so many things to talk about, and they know what I want to talk about, and they don't want to talk about that.
That's why they don't want to meet with you, man.
I know, I think exactly so. But my point is that's what we're going with the legislature with, right? Let's do some common sense things. Let's make sure they actually bring people back to work. You, legislature, you need the income tax to balance the state budget. You're not going to get it if people are not working. Let's make them bring people back to work. Let's make it so that you can enforce guidelines. And that way, if everybody can take a picture, it's that's where you can enforce stuff.
I think it's in for some properties, and whether the union, non-union, whatever business, I'm not talking just about hotels, but it's going to be expensive to be safe. It is, and it's just the new norm, they call it, and it's something that we cannot get away from, and that's why a lot of the businesses are shutting down. They cannot address the issues. They just can't do it anymore. Hotels, the state has an opportunity to incentivize, whether it's through whatever, they can incentivize, require these safety measures to be in place. Make it a law, and then
we have that suggestion too.
Maybe for the next 3 years, relax the tax or whatever it may be. Give an opportunity to allow them to stay open. And, some of these properties can absorb it, Eric, that some of these large corporate properties can absorb the cost. They just choose not to. But there are some out there that practically maybe cannot, just simply don't have the cash or whatever. But something needs to be done to ensure the protection of the employees, because again, one thing I cannot stand is bait and switch. I hate bait and switch. And it happens so much in politics. But Bait and switch, meaning you came to the public, you said, hey, we got to open them up. You guys got to support the reopening of the economy because we got to get all our hotel workers back to work. And we all know hotel workers. We all have family that are in a hotel. And they're struggling right now. Some of them haven't even gotten a goddamn unemployment check. And then all of a sudden we open up and then we find out that, wait a minute, 40% of them never went back to work. 40% of them never went back to work. Well, what happened to, that was the reason why we pushed the opening, was to get people back to work? Or was it to support the corporate owners of these hotels? What was it? Was it getting the employees back to work or corporate profit?
And the point is that the people of Hawaii are not neutrals here. We're the people of Hawaii, the workers. The hotel owners and operators are not from here. And so, our interests are fundamentally different. And Hawaii people should be backing up Local 5 in fighting for all of us. And that's what we are doing. And we're asking the legislature to do just that. Yes, let's make them publish with the state what they say they're going to do. Yes, let's make sure that people can turn them in and take pictures and whatever they need to do to make sure they follow those things. And let's make sure when they open a hotel, they bring people back to work. Because I can tell you that last piece, I'm not making this up. It was in the Wall Street Journal. The corporation's plan is to pay for the protective equipment and the cost of safety by eliminating stuff like daily service to rooms, valet service, bell service, front desk. That is, it's in the Wall Street Journal. They're discussing this. And so we would be foolish to put our heads in the ground and leave our okole up, ready to get taken advantage of by all these global corporations, when that is what they say they're going to do. So I believe firmly that, I don't believe everything somebody says they're going to do. When they say this is how I'm going to save money, I know they're serious about it. And so we know they're serious about it. They know they're serious about it. That's why they're running away. That's why we're asking the legislature to make them put up, right? That's why we're asking the legislature to help us make it so that we can enforce those guidelines. And that's why we're asking the legislature to tell them they got to bring our people back to work. And those things, we have concrete proposals we're going to put in tomorrow. And so we'll see what the legislature actually does. But the politics, right? The legislature's take away the money from the governor. Everybody's jumping on the governor. The governor.
Well, Senator Kochi is on. He's listening, so he's got the head start. He's got the preview of what's going to happen tomorrow. But yeah, Eric. I mean, I think I wish you well, man. I really do. I think we all do. We hope that you guys can come to some sort of agreement in the best interest of our residents, our people, our employees, and
right.
And we really do, because they're critical. Yeah. We've suffered enough, and those
right.
poor hotel employees have been on a roller coaster ride. Are we going to open? Are we not going to open? Some of them, like I said, still haven't gotten a damn unemployment check, never got a stimulus, and it's been 3 months, and
right.
The stress level, the anxiety is out of control. But
and the legislature got to do something, Mel, right? They know they got to do something. I know they got to do something, right? That's what we're hearing. They're trying to figure out what to do, and we're happy to help.
Eric, I will say that based on our experiences here, Charlie and I, like I said, we've been doing this now for almost 3 months, and we've had the Senate committees on, we've had Senate President on, and they have been very receptive. And I will say that many of the topics that we have brought up on this show from our viewers and our guests, the very next day or a day or two after at their Senate, the next Senate COVID committee meeting, they were discussing it. I think the Senate has been very proactive and aggressive, the House as well. So I wish you well, and I'm not sure. Charlie gets plenty pulled though. Charlie gets so much pull at the legislature, man. I tell you. One thing about Charlie, what you do with Charlie, I'm gonna tell you this. Nobody knows this, so please don't repeat this, but he loves carrots.
Yeah.
So if you send him one bag of the miniature carrots, the little carrots you buy in the produce section, send them to Charlie. He can make anything happen. But that's the secret, carrots.
Okay. Well, we got a good view of your scalp, Charlie, so Want to see mine? Mine is hey, and I had to wait. I had to wait to go to the dentist, so you can tell I'm doing the bulaya thing. But guess what?
I was going. I never like say I noticed, but that's okay. I thought maybe you
Only
told
when
me
I
to put 'em on.
smile, you know.
Yeah.
Charlie,
I-
Charlie.
Yeah. I heard something tonight. I heard him talking, but I knew he was missing a teeth. I heard that thing go every so often. But first of all, I'd like to say mahalo, Eric, for coming on. It's been a worthwhile conversation. We had a lot of comments tonight. I want to thank all your people that was able to make this happen. I know you're busy. You know, I know there's views from both sides, and but you know, your membership, they have a you know, they look up to you. You got reelected all this time, and you know, you're fighting hard for them. And like Mel said, I hope something can come to some type of resolution. But you know, my thing has always been, and like I said before, everything is safety first. Whatever the protocols, whatever as simple or as difficult it may be, there got to be some type of protocol in there, because ultimately, at the very end, once somebody gets sick, that's the downfall. And you said it, you hit the nail on the head. If we start going up with the cases, you can be rest assured, yeah, July, August, we'll be back home again. And that's where we don't want to be. But you got to be able to start now and get all those safety protocols in place. So I want to thank you for coming and sharing your feelings tonight. Thank you very much.
And thank you guys, because you can see I want to talk about this. I'm trying to find, like you guys and everybody wants to find the right place to have the right conversation, because I don't think anybody, including our legislators, and like nobody wants us to all get sick. You know, the question is how we're going to do that, and how we're going to have our jobs and be safe, and you know, and how we're going to make a living and still not be in danger, right? And it's a terrible position for workers to be in. We've got to make it so, you know, it's not just getting sick. It's worried about being sick all the time is in itself a problem. You know, we need to address this so our people can go to work and make money so that we can support our families without worrying all the time. You know,
and you know, you brought up another great point too. I always said this from before. You know, if the government wants to take a government-run quarantine facility, they take over a facility, they run it, because they're in the business. Hotels are not in the business of quarantine.
I can tell you, I mean, they're not set up for it, but we know how to do that. We set up the quarantine station, right, on Ibilay. We did that for the state. So we know how to do a quarantine, and you can do it. You just can't do it the same as you run a hotel. And so we're ready to do that with the state. And, you know, we're talking with a couple of employers that are interested. And if a hotel is willing to make a deal with the state to be a quarantine facility, yes, we will cooperate. We will provide staff. We will help with the training. We would, if it's our place, that's our work. We want it, but we want to do it safe. And we are ready to work with the state. We want to work with the legislature. We've been trying, you know, we've had discussions with the governor and with Alan Oshima and with the mayor. We've tried every which way. And now we're going to the legislature. They're going to open up on the 22nd, apparently, and they have an opportunity to do some stuff. And we're going to offer them practical, realistic things they can do that will actually help make this program work, you know, because at the end of the day, everybody wants their jobs back. Nobody wants to get sick. We got to find the balance, and we're not going to do that with the hotels just doing it my way or the highway. And we got to have real interaction, and workers got to have interaction with their department heads about safety too. And that's got to happen. Otherwise, people are going to be scared to go to work. It's a terrible thing to think that you might bring something home to your family, and it's a terrible thing when your family thinks that too.
Yeah, it's far-reaching. It's far-reaching, and again, I hope you guys gain some ground. I hope, you know, like I said, Senator Kochi's on. I remember Senator Kochi was in one of his press conferences mentioned it on the news that they were looking at a hotel or a UH dorms for a quarantine facility. That was again basically quashed by the Attorney General. I don't know where that's at right now, but I'm hoping that is still possible. But anyway,
Yeah.
well, beyond our time, Eric, I want to thank you, man. Thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight. Uh, Keep us posted. We definitely want to have you back on as you make progress, to keep us informed. You know, it's important information for everybody because everybody's impacted. We all have families that work in the hotels, work in the visitor industry, and we'll make sure that they're safe. Well, that's
Yeah.
all we do. That's why we do what we do. We don't keep people
I
safe. and
really
healthy.
hate coming on here. You can tell. So feel free to call me again.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, tomorrow night, Dr. Berriman, Janet Berriman from the state, she's the Kauai District Health Officer from the Department of Health, will be on at 7 o'clock. And then Saturday, Angela Keene from the Hawaii Kapu Quarantine Busters, and she has some awesome stories to tell us. So join us tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Again, Eric, thank you very much. Good luck
Eric.
in your challenges with the state legislature tomorrow. For the rest of you, we see you guys at 7 o'clock. Take care. God bless. We love you guys.
Aloha.
Aloha. Oh, where's my button? There we go.